Are you tired of living suffocated by debt, unable to sleep, unable to see a light at the end of the tunnel? Have you thought about giving up everything, throwing in the towel and surrendering to financial despair? Well, I have good news for you. There is a way out, and it's closer than you think. But hold on, don't think it's going to be easy or miraculous. After all, if getting into debt is a gradual process, getting out of debt will be too. But with the 7 steps I'm going to show you here, you'll discover that it is possible to regain control of your finances and achieve the financial freedom you've been dreaming of. And you know what's the best part? These steps are not some revealed secret magic formula or exclusive knowledge of the great gurus of economics. In fact, they are right there, within reach of anyone who is willing to change their attitude and face their debts head-on. And the most amazing thing is that these principles were already present in the Bible thousands of years ago, showing that God has always cared about our financial health and wants to see us prosperous and fulfilled. So, if you're ready to turn things around and transform your financial life once and for all, stick with me until the end of this video. I'm going to show you, step by step, how to make a complete diagnosis of your debts, renegotiate with creditors, create a balanced budget, and even generate extra income to accelerate the payment of debts. And the best part is, you'll discover that, with God's help and the application of these biblical principles, there is no debt that cannot be overcome. So grab a pen and paper, and let's start this journey towards financial freedom. Step 1. Make a debt chart. Have you ever stopped to think about all your debts? You know that feeling of having several bills to pay but not knowing where to start? Well, the first step to getting rid of this burden is precisely to face reality head-on. Grab a piece of paper and a pen and write down everything. Who you owe, how much you owe, when it's due, the amount of the installments, and of course, those dreaded interest rates. It may seem scary at first, but believe me, it's liberating. If you don't have all this information at your fingertips, no problem. Just contact your creditors and ask for an updated statement of the debt. They will be happy to provide you with this data. After all, they also want to receive what is owed to them. And you'll be surprised at the number of people who don't even know exactly the size of the hole they're in. But don't despair. Knowing the extent of the problem is the first step to finding the solution. Imagine this. You, with all your debts organized in a table, knowing exactly what you owe and to whom. It's like a weight off your shoulders, isn't it? From there, it becomes much easier to devise an action plan to pay off these debts and regain your peace of mind. And check this out. In the Bible, Proverbs 22:7 says, "The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender." So by getting rid of debt, you are also freeing yourself from financial servitude and getting closer to true wealth, which goes far beyond money. Step 2. Review your expenses. Now that you've faced your debts head-on, it's time to look at your expenses with fresh eyes. After all, to be able to pay off these debts, you need to have money left over at the end of the month, right? So, grab that same piece of paper and pen, and let's go. List all your expenses, from your morning coffee to your electricity bill. It may seem laborious, but it's an exercise that's worth it. And don't forget to separate the mandatory expenses, such as rent and food, from those you can cut without major losses, such as that streaming subscription you don't even use anymore. By doing this thorough analysis, you'll identify where every penny of your hard-earned money is going. And believe me, there's always something that can be adjusted. That lunch at the restaurant every day, for example, can be replaced by a homemade lunchbox, which is cheaper and healthier. Or that car that only serves to give you a headache, maybe it's time to trade it in for a bicycle or public transportation. These are small changes that, added up, make a big difference in your budget. And you know what's better? By reviewing your expenses, you're not just saving money, but also learning to be a better steward of the resources God has given you. After all, as it says in Luke 16:10, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. So, by taking good care of your money, you are preparing to receive even more financial blessings. And with the savings you'll make, you'll soon have a reserve to start paying off those debts that bother you so much. It's one step at a time, but the important thing is to start. Step 3. Qualify your debts, defining which ones you will pay first. With your debts listed and expenses reviewed, it's time to put your house in order. And that means setting priorities. After all, not all debt is the same, right? So, take that table you made at the beginning and, next to each debt, write a number from 1 to 10, with 1 being the most urgent and 10 being the ones that can wait a little longer. Start with essential services, such as water and electricity, which need to be kept up to date to ensure your and your family's well-being. Then, look at those debts with higher interest rates, which grow like a snowball if not paid off soon. But calm down. Don't despair. With the money you saved by reviewing your expenses, you can already start paying off these debts little by little. Start by paying one at a time whenever you have a little slack in your budget. And remember, if you don't have extra money, it's okay to postpone payment. After all, as it says in Romans 13:8, let no debt remain outstanding, except the continuing debt to love one another. So, don't feel guilty for not being able to pay everything at once. The important thing is to do what is within your reach, with honesty and responsibility. Oh, and an important piece of advice. Avoid signing debt settlement agreements without being sure that you can fulfill what was agreed upon. Sometimes, in the eagerness to clear our name, we end up committing to installments that don't fit in our pocket, and then the problem only increases. Remember what it says in Proverbs 22:26-27. Do not be one who shakes hands in pledge or puts up security for debts. If you lack the means to pay, your very bed will be snatched from under you. So, be realistic and don't be afraid to negotiate with your creditors. They also want to receive, and are often willing to make agreements that fit your budget. Step 4. Negotiate your debts. You know that saying that goes, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Well, my friend, when it comes to negotiating your debts, it makes perfect sense. After all, your creditors also have an interest in receiving, even if it's a lower amount than initially agreed upon. So, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call that company you're in debt with. Explain your financial situation, be transparent, and propose an agreement that fits your pocket. You may be surprised by the receptiveness on the other end of the line. And don't think that this negotiation is something rare or impossible. On the contrary, many creditors already expect some clients to default and, therefore, are willing to offer generous discounts to receive at least part of the amount due. I've seen cases of people who managed to reduce their debts by up to 80%. Can you believe it? Of course, each case is unique, but the important thing is not to give up before even trying. As it says in Matthew 7:7, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened to you. So, take your debt table and start contacting each creditor. Be cordial, explain your difficulties, and show your willingness to find a solution that is good for both parties. And don't forget to write down everything that is agreed upon, okay? Write down the amounts, payment dates, and if possible, ask the creditor to send an email confirming what was agreed upon. That way, you'll have more security and peace of mind to proceed with your debt repayment plan without unpleasant surprises along the way. Step 5. Make an anti-debt budget. Now that you're negotiating your debts like a true expert, it's time to take an even more important step: preventing them from haunting your life again in the future. And the best way to do this is by creating a budget that is foolproof against unforeseen events. That is, an anti-debt budget. The idea is simple, but it may seem a little scary at first. Set aside 30% of your income for emergencies and investments. Yes, my friend, 30%. I know it may sound like a huge sacrifice, especially if you're used to living on the edge of your budget, but believe me, it's worth it. Think about it. If you had a financial reserve when that unforeseen event happened, would you have needed to resort to loans and credit cards? Probably not, right? So, start small, setting aside 5% or 10% of your income, and increase that percentage as you feel more comfortable. And don't worry if you can't reach 30% right away. The important thing is to create the habit of saving and understand that this reserve is as important as paying the monthly bills. And you know what else? By creating this anti-debt budget, you're not only protecting yourself from future unforeseen events, but also honoring God with your finances. After all, as it says in 1 Corinthians 4:2, now it is required that those who have been given a trust must prove faithful. So by being a good steward of the money He has entrusted to you, you are demonstrating your faith and gratitude for the blessings received. And believe me, God always honors those who honor Him. So don't be afraid to take this step of faith and create a budget that prioritizes your long-term financial health. Step 6. Unearth your talents. Remember that parable of the talents that Jesus told in Matthew 25? Well, it has a lot to teach us about how to manage our financial resources. In the story, a master entrusts different amounts of talents to 3 servants, according to each one's ability. 2 of them invest the money and manage to double the value, but the third, out of fear, buries the talent in the ground. When the master returns, he rewards the first 2 and rebukes the last, calling him wicked and lazy. The lesson is clear. Burying our talents, whether out of fear or laziness, is wasting the opportunities God gives us. But hold on. You don't have to go out there investing in stocks or starting a business if you don't have the knowledge or aptitude for it. Your talents can be much simpler and more accessible things, like that car that sits in the garage, taking up space and accumulating dust, or that bicycle you no longer use, but that could make someone who needs to get around happy. Even those clothes that no longer fit can become a source of extra income if you sell them at a garage sale or online. The important thing is to understand that everything we have comes from God and should be used to honor Him and bless other people. So, look around you and identify those talents that are buried, waiting to be put into practice. Sell what you no longer use, rent out that idle space, offer your services to those who need them, and use the extra money to accelerate the payment of your debts or to reinforce your emergency reserve. That way, you'll not only be a good steward of the resources God has given you, but you'll also be opening the doors to receive even more financial blessings. Step 7. Avoid new debts. Now that you're putting your talents to work and seeing your financial situation improve, it's time to redouble your attention so as not to fall into temptation. Yes, I'm talking about that tempting invitation to pay for that state-of-the-art TV in 12 interest-free installments, or that unmissable credit card promotion. Remember, while you're still paying off your old debts, it's essential to avoid taking on new ones, no matter how attractive they may seem. I know it's hard to resist sometimes, especially when we're used to having everything we want when we want it. But think about it. Is that item you're eyeing really necessary right now? Is it worth compromising all the progress you've made so far for a fleeting desire? In those moments, remember what it says in Proverbs 22:7. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Do you want to go back to being a slave to debt, or do you prefer to continue on the path to financial freedom? So, when temptation comes knocking, take a deep breath, pray, and ask God for wisdom to make the right decision. Make a list of pros and cons. Talk to your family. Research prices and payment terms. And if you're still in doubt, take some time to reflect before making any decision. Remember, true wealth is not in the things we possess, but in the peace of mind that comes from a balanced financial life and a heart grateful to God for all that He provides us. So, be patient, persist in your purpose, and trust that, in due time, you will be able to enjoy the fruits of your effort and discipline. What a lot of important information we've seen today, right? I'm sure your head is buzzing with ideas and possibilities to put these 7 steps towards financial freedom into practice. But you know what? It's no use having all this knowledge if you don't commit to applying it in your daily life. After all, as it says in James 1:22, do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. And if you want to go even further and have access to exclusive materials to boost your financial planning, I have a surprise for you. I've put together special content packed with tips, spreadsheets, and strategies to help you achieve your financial independence, and they are available at an affordable price. The link is in the description of this video and in the first pinned comment. So, I challenge you to start right now. How about taking that list of debts you made at the beginning and taking the first step by contacting your creditors to renegotiate? Or maybe doing a cleanup of your expenses, identifying those superfluous expenses that can be cut to have more money left over at the end of the month? And why not start thinking of creative ways to generate extra income, using your talents and skills to create new sources of revenue? Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And every small action you take today, no matter how small it may seem, will bring you closer and closer to the long-dreamed financial freedom. But don't think it will be an easy path or without obstacles. There will be moments of temptation, discouragement, and the desire to give up. In those moments, remember that you are not alone. God is by your side, giving you strength, wisdom, and direction to overcome any challenge. So, don't waste any more time. Start applying these 7 steps today and watch your financial life be transformed day by day. And if you liked this content and want to keep learning more about how to better manage your money and live a prosperous and blessed life, be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. That way, you won't miss any valuable tips, and you'll also help us spread this message of hope and financial freedom to more and more people. May God bless you and guide you on this journey towards true wealth.